Hello and welcome to another Overlord lore video, and today we are going to take a look at the other undead kings. For Ainz Ooal Gown carving out a realm for himself isn't all that unusual in the new world. Quite the contrary, he wasn't the first, nor was his undead realm, at least initially, very different from other undead domains, at least from an outsider's perspective. But before we're going to take a closer look at all of this, let me thank my Patreons for supporting this channel, as well as all users of the YouTube thanks function for making one-time donations. Also please check out my fantasy channel. Now with all of that said, there are 3 famous undead that managed to do what Ainz Ooal Gown had done by accident, carving out kingdoms of their very own. These domains are well established and feared, not only by the immediate vicinity, but also they are famous enough that news about them is reaching the very edge of the continent, where Ainz Ooal Gown's own realm is. And while we have little info on them themselves, there are still some bits and pieces of lore. And first and foremost, we have to take a look at the Titan Night Lich Siviveren. The name suggests that he had been a Titan, which might be some form of giant, and turned himself into a lich. Now, giants such as the frost giants were able to go toe-to-toe with the frost dragons, and therefore I expect Siviveren to have been already quite powerful by the standards of the New World during his lifetime. And speaking of dragons, next in line we have an undead dragon that Ainz Ooal, back in the 11th volume of Overlord, has mentioned and rightfully feared. His name is Gufandera Argauros, a Dracolich. A dragon turned his long into an unending undead life, and he too was so powerful that he could carve out a kingdom of his very own. Now it should also be mentioned that Ainz Ooal is a very well-read dragon, and that this knowledge is likely not as common among dragonkind at the edge of this continent as it is to Ainz Ooal himself. And as a dragon, he also still should be quite formidable, or at least passable, in terms of melee skills, due to his higher HP, defense, and so on and so forth, in comparison to the normal night liches. And by the way, night liches are basically the next level of elder liches, but they will get a video of their very own. For today it simply suffices that night liches are powerful magic casters. And speaking of them, the next and last of the 3 is simply known as Fear, a nameless night lich that perhaps abandoned his old name in order to protect his old identity and keep his origin and method of ascendancy a tightly guarded secret. Or perhaps he came up with a really cool undead name that is incredibly hard to pronounce. Ridiculous, I know. And then maybe he had forgotten to write his name down, didn't want to embarrass himself, and declared the very name he had chosen for himself, and then forgotten forbidden, and simply told his many minions that he is now simply to be addressed as Fear. Nonetheless, all 3 of these undead are extremely potent. They all have a difficult ranking of 150, so the Adventurer Guild would put them around Evil Eyes or Demiurge's strength, which makes their strength ranking very unprecise, since the puny humans already fail to understand the difference in the power between Evil Eye, the undead night liches, and Demiurge. Now with that said, these 3 undead were so famous, so powerful, and so feared and despised, that they themselves, despite being incredibly powerful undead magic casters, were not invited to the secretive organization known as the Corpus of the Abyss, who house equally strong or even stronger undead casters. And Corpus of the Abyss didn't want them in their organization for the same reason you wouldn't want to invite 3 rock stars to a secret meeting of some shadowy cabal. Corpus of the Abyss didn't want to get any unwanted attention. Furthermore, we also should contextualize the kingdoms that these 3 legendary undead had built for themselves, because the description of the caster with access to tier magic beyond anything humans are even capable of, and that carved out small kingdoms for themselves sound an awful lot like the description of the Sorcerer Kingdom back in its infancy, back when it had only been recently established as a city-state with some surrounding arable land and settlements like Karn. So it's possible that the new world, especially the higher-ups of different nations, might see Ainz Ooal Gown not as an overlord, but more in the realms of a powerful Night Lich, who coincidentally also has access to many undead minions, and quite some powerful ones, like Elder Liches, Death Knights, and Soul Eaters. So it could be that at least in the 9th to the 14th novel, the New World saw Ainz as an equal to the power of these Night Liches, which also would explain the rather subdued reaction of all of the surrounding area, and why the Draconic Kingdom sought the support of the Sorcerer Kingdom, and why the city-state alliance of Karnasus still underestimates the power of the Sorcerer Kingdom. Because there are 3 precedents where small undead realms were established, who could threaten their neighbors, but who also would not expand its borders, and therefore perhaps rather engage in diplomacy, bringing other nations surrounding these small kingdoms into their sphere of influence. Perhaps establishing a tributary state of some sort, or another means of a more hands-off control over the other realms of the living, just like Ainz Ooal Gown by accident did in the Empire of Baharut. So viewed through this lens, it would still explain why Ainz Ooal Gown and his Sorcerer Kingdom are not seen as something absolute, but rather as something incredibly powerful, but also as something that still can be dealt with. And lastly, if Ainz Ooal Gown is just seen as a Night Lich, or a Demi-Lich, as Night Liches had been called in the web novel, then it also would explain why Platinum Dragonlord underestimated Ainz Ooal Gown so much. He thought Pandora's weak and restrained imitation of Ainz as much more powerful than actually expected, despite the greater doppelganger losing roughly 20% of his overall strength. But all of this would still make sense, because even a level 80 being would still be much stronger than a Night Lich, which is supposedly around level 50, and even the Saints in White struggle to reach the 9th tier of magic, while Ainz Ooal Gown's imitation, aka Pandora's Actor, flung many 9th and even 10th-tiered magic spells at Platinum's armor. And most curiously, the reason why Corpus of the Abyss initially accepted that one and knelt before him was to get protection from the world's strongest being, perhaps suggesting that if the Night Liches would have become too much of a problem, then Platinum would have sent in his armor. After all, it is said that Platinum's power is strongest in the East, where these 3 legendary undead reside, and of course, where Corpus of the Abyss is also housed. So maybe these 3 Undead Kingdoms, ruled by the incredibly powerful and feared and famous undead, don't expand their borders anymore, because they then would incur the wrath of Platinum Dragonlord. And with that said, I say thank you very much for watching. Please excuse my very sickly voice, and please also leave comments in the comment section. And also, I say special thanks to Arder Daddy Arder, Bad Guy Yee, Bad Boyto 316, Beezer, Ben C, Brandon D, Chrissy, Crowley 0221, Sia, Crystal Prime, Dead Slime, Death is Mercy, Deathless Dragonlord, Demon Xenomorph 1987, Devin Downen, Ding Dong, Duckwagon, Dunkler Krieger, Dystopia, Dystopia II, Enigmatic Unicorn, Feral Shivan, Guy with That Head, Hector Marino, Hoss, Huster, Jacob G, Jana B, Jason, J. Morris, Chromius, Kyle R, Lee K. Long, Legendarius, Lelouch Britannia with a Mustache, Lexus Fox, Lord Nishikian Rai, Lord Touch Me, Love Razor, Merovec, Mr. Shoes, Mr. Tweaker, Michael R, Michael Y, Nope, Oh Hell No, Normal Toad, Overlord General Gasper, Paddy Pantum, Personage, Primus 11, Rhinomere, Q&A Caracos P, Shergox's Daddy, Shadow Lightning Wolf, Shrine Keeper, Super Tier Magic Batista Bomb, Supreme Cheese, Staris, Ted, Texas Deer, The Orc Warboss, Rocket Smasher, T.E. Wang, Vash Hawkeye, Vegito 27, Venture Fanatic, Wilhelm, Xenokai, and Zonagon. Thanks guys. Anyway, have a nice day, and I hope to see you all again soon under my next video.